Our Heavenly Father, the fount of all goodness and grace, the cause of wisdom, the source of intelligence, we welcome you, O Lord, to this auspicious gathering of your beloved, who continuously give you thanks for every opportunity to learn something new and become fruitful to the works of your creation. We humbly come to you, not because we are worthy, but because we find ourselves in need of you, who is our strength and our hope, to continue despite the challenges we face in health, prosperity, and our solidarity with one another. We pray that today's gathering, made possible by the grace of advancements in technology and social media, becomes successful in its endeavors, so we can offer it back to you as our humble offering to honor you, glorify you, and love you through our deeper connection with everyone. May we find bliss in today's session and become more productive children and co-creators of the earth. This we ask and pray through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you all had a blessed and restful long weekend. I'm very happy to welcome everyone back. I'm Tony. I'll be one of your hosts for this morning.
At magandang umaga sa ating lahat. I'm Paolo. Welcome everyone, including our viewers from Zoom, to our first ever Consuelo Learning Series for the year 2022.
Excited kaming dalawa ni Paolo at ng buong Consuelo Foundation team na i-welcome kayong lahat sa ating Consuelo Learning Series for this morning na #GetCertified, the Hows and Whys of PCNC Accreditation.
Pero bago natin simulan ang ating session for this morning, tinatawagan ko si Mr. Greg Auberry and President of Consuelo Foundation.
Thank you, Tony and Pau, and welcome everyone. It's my real great honor to welcome you all to the first Consuelo Learning Series of the year. And I'm very excited that we're going to talk about PCNC accreditation today. And you know, this idea for this topic came from many of you, our partners on there, and just to gain familiarity with people who are maybe new to PCNC or are just beginning to explore it. So we thought we would create a space where we could talk and discuss it. I'd like to give a shout out to our presenters today. First of all, Mr. Felix Tanog, the Executive Director of PCNC. Thank you. It's so nice to have you here. He is what I call, these three presenters are what I call before, during, and after. And Mr. Felix is before. He's going to talk about everything that goes on with PCNC and really tell us the ins and outs and how it works. And then we have two of our partners who I'm really honored that you're willing for us, and they're before and after. And one before is Miss Liza Ebrada, the Managing Director of Safe Haven Children's Home. Thank you so much. They're just going through the process now, and she's going to share with us her experience so far in getting accredited with PCNC. And then we have after Mr. Chrysler Go. Thank you, Chrysler. He's the Executive Director of Concordia Children's Service. They have been accredited with PCNC for years, and he can really share how it's worked and how it's helped them. That's kind of a motivation and some advice to all of you. So I hope everyone uses this time to kind of learn and get to know it better. But I thought I would just back up for a second and really share with you why accreditation is important to Consuelo Foundation. And it goes back to our founder, Consuelo Zobel Alger. Foundation is over 30 years old. And when she was starting out, she put very broad parameters. She wanted us to look at the prevention and treatment of child abuse and neglect, is what she said. And she didn't put a lot of stipulations on it just to do it. But then she laid out about 18 or 19 principles of things we should think about as we go about this work. And two of those, I think, are really, I was reflecting on them, and I'd just like to share them with you because I think they link to accreditation. And one of them is, she said she wanted us, when we partner with organizations, to look for partners who demonstrate or for developing sound management practices. Sound management practices. And that was for her, I think, providing us opportunities to identify, establish, or create effective practices of operations and management. So really looking at how you do work in a really sound way. And the other thing she said, besides the sound management practices, she was really looking for us to find partners who can leverage financial support to achieve sustainability. And she wanted us to use the funding from her generosity to influence additional funding and to help our partners improve and get more funding from others so they didn't become dependent on the foundation. She didn't want us to create a cycle of dependency, but really to find ways to do it. And I think those two things are at the core of accreditation, really thinking about, you know, how you operate, how you can do better, what are your systems, how are things changing, and really living up to a high standard. And with those high standards, you can attract more financial resources. Donors will have trust in you, other types of donors, overseas donors, those in the Philippines. So for Consuelo, we really find it important to invest in our partners' capacity around accreditation, and because it links to your ability to both have sound management practices and better leverage resources. So I'm really excited for today to hear what some of the tricks and hacks are as we all get #GetAccredited. And I just also like to give a little thank you to all our partners for being here from around the Philippines, and to our host and the staff of Consuelo who've worked so hard to put all this together. So thank you. Welcome and have a great learning session.
Thank you for the warm welcome message, Greg. Bago tayo magsimula, may gusto lang kaming itanong ni Paolo. Paunahan makatype sa ating chat box ng correct answer. Type 1 if ready na po kayo. Sana po ay ready na po tayong lahat.
Sana ready nga. Kasi we're gonna start yung first question po natin. So here we go. So what does PCNC stand for? Remember, dapat complete po na meaning or yung words of the acronym. Okay, so as you wait. So,
ano kaya, Pao, ang meaning ng PCNC?
4 words.
Ikaw, Pao, ano sa tingin mo ang meaning ng PCNC?
Professional choreography of cheerleaders.
Naging dance prod na.
Pero alam mo, in the non-profit world talaga, paulit-ulit yung naririnig. So kaya feeling ko talaga alam ko, like all NGOs who are applying, alam na nila yung ano. Ayan, so mukhang nakuha na yung correct answer. And if you answered Philippine Council for NGO Certification, you are correct. So congratulations.
Congratulations. Okay, for question number 2. What year did PCNC started to operate? Is it letter A, 1992, letter B, 1995, or letter C, 1999? Don't forget to put in your answers in the chat box.
1992, 1995, 1999.
For sure, matagal na sila. PCNC.
In the service of NGOs to for expanding, 'di ba, yung ating mga fundraising opportunities.
Okay, so I think we have a winner. The answer is letter C. Thank you everyone for your participation and congratulations to our winners. One of our team members will get in touch with you to give your prizes.
So now let's talk about our topic for today. Sino at ano nga ba ang PCNC? They are a private, voluntary, non-stock, non-profit corporation that certifies non-profit organizations that meet established minimum criteria for financial management and accountability in the service to underprivileged Filipinos. The PCNC certification is used by the Bureau of Internal Revenue as a basis in granting donee institution status to organizations that qualify. One path towards sustainability is developing a comprehensive donor database and having a PCNC accreditation that can help with that. Aside from encouraging more donors, a certification also elevates the credentials of an NGO, building trust and accountability.
Ayan, yes, tama ka dyan, Pao, and thank you for that information. Siyempre, hindi mawawala ang objective for this training. Is number 1, to provide an orientation on the nature of the PCNC and what an accreditation entails, particularly of those new to the concept. Also, to provide tips and information on the application process, especially for Consuelo partners planning on getting their certificate. Another is to share experiences from Consuelo partners who have either been accredited or are currently undergoing the application process. And lastly, to discuss the benefits and importance of getting a PCNC accreditation.
Yun. So ano pa naantay natin? Ipakilala na natin ating ang resource person. He has over 28 years of progressive work experience in the academe, corporate and social development sectors. Currently, he serves as the Executive Director for the Philippine Council for NGO Certification. He was a member and treasurer of the PCNC Board of Trustees from 2016 to 2020, and a former member of the Board of Trustees of the Caucus of Development NGO Networks from 2016 to 2017. He held various management and leadership roles at Philippine Business for Social Progress from 2005 to 2020. Among them are Corporate Planning Manager, Director of Strategy Management, and Director for Administration. Our speaker holds a bachelor's degree in philosophy and master's degree in business management. He has also completed the academic requirements for his master's for science in economics. Here to discuss the need-to-knows about PCNC, let us all welcome Mr. Felix Tonog, Executive Director for Philippine Council for NGO Certification. Let us all give him a virtual round of applause.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much for considering PCNC to be the first of the series, the first learning session of the series that you're conducting. And thank you very much, Greg, for that warm welcome. And I hope you'll be able to learn something from PCNC in this morning session, right? So let me just quickly share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen now? All right, so I think you can. All right, so I'll be sharing with you some of the process, not the beginning, and why there's a need for PCNC accreditation or PCNC certification, right? So just the flow of our discussion this morning. So I'll be presenting the rationale behind the founding of PCNC and what we are doing, who is PCNC, our mandate, and a quick overview of the PCNC accreditation system. Okay, so the thought of establishing PCNC actually started sometime in 1995 when there was a discussion on the uh, review and redevelopment of the comprehensive tax reform program. And one of the issues that were being discussed at the time was the incentives, the tax incentives that were given to non-stock non-profit corporations or NGOs or foundations. And simply because the government at the time needed to generate the much needed resources to implement various programs. And so they are looking at the possibility of actually eliminating those tax incentives for NGOs. And of course, the civil society organizations, the NGO leaders, felt that that will be a very that will create some significant impact on how NGOs operate, particularly those that are dependent largely on corporate donations. So they are the ones that will actually be affected if the plan of scrapping the tax incentives will actually push through. And so as a result of that, NGO leaders joined, discussed, and came up with some negotiations with the Department of Finance. And one of the challenges that was posed by then Secretary Ocampo to the NGO leaders was that, can you actually set up a system, a process that will give the government the confidence that those NGOs who will be given the tax incentives or the tax benefits under the law are actually legitimate NGOs, are actually NGOs that are doing good work and not fly by night, or not NGOs that are established only for political or personal reasons of certain families. So that was the challenge. That was the challenge. And so as a result of that, the NGO leaders came up with some proposals, and they took on that challenge of establishing that system. And because of that, they created or established registered PCNC, or the Philippine Council for NGO Certification, on January 29, 1997. So it was a long negotiation process. And finally, in 1997, they were able to register PCNC. Okay. And after the registration of PCNC, there were further negotiations on what kind of system, what kind of process will be adopted. Okay. It was a bold response actually from the NGO sector, because there was no precedent at the time. There was no prior experience that they can look back on how an NGO certification process is actually going to work. There was no system, no experience, no prior experience, right? So it was a bold attempt on the part of the NGO leaders to actually take on that challenge. And finally, on January, after 2 years after its registration, PCNC was officially launched on January 5, 1999. And these are the six NGO networks, national NGO networks that formed the initial or the incorporators of PCNC. So you have the Association of Foundation, we have the Bishops Businessmen's Conference of the Philippines for Human Development, and then the Caucus of Development NGO Network. We have the NCSD, or National Coalition of Social Development Organizations, the League of Corporate Foundations, and of course, the Philippine Business for Social Progress. So on January 29, 1999, PCNC and the Department of Finance signed a memorandum of agreement, which later on became the primary reference document of the Revenue Regulation 13-98. So you would notice that the functions, the scope of the certification process, and the primary framework for the accreditation system was actually laid out in the memorandum of agreement and carried on in the Revenue Regulation 13-98. And in that memorandum of agreement, it was stipulated there that PCNC shall be the sole body to establish and operationalize a system of accreditation. But of course, after the signing of the memorandum of agreement and when the Revenue Regulation 13-98 was actually crafted, the term sole was eliminated because there were some contentions on that term. But since then up to now, PCNC is still the only government-recognized NGO accreditation body, or we consider ourselves as the self-regulatory mechanism of the NGO sector. So the following issuances actually provide the legal basis for PCNC's mandate. So as I mentioned earlier, as a result of the Comprehensive Tax Reform Program, was the enactment of Republic Act 8424, or the Tax Reform Act of 1997. In Section 34 there, it stipulated that donations to accredited, although the Republic Act did not mention or specify the accreditation process who is going to accredit, but it provides the basis for the crafting of 13-98 and the designation of PCNC as the accrediting entity. Right? So the details of that Section 34 is actually provided for by its implementing rules and regulations, which is the Revenue Regulation number 13-98, which was issued on December 8, 1998. So even up to now, this is still our the primary basis for PCNC's functions as the accrediting entity or accrediting body. Now, on April 2008, during the time of President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, she issued an Executive Order 720, and in that executive order, it was re-emphasized that PCNC shall be the government's partner in the system of NGO accreditation. Okay. So with these issuances or laws, PCNC was able to perform its mission of accrediting or certifying NGOs. Okay. So PCNC, we are a private organization, although we have that mandate coming from the national government, but we remain to be a private voluntary organization. So you can actually consider, and for all intents and purposes, PCNC accreditation is really a peer accreditation system. So it's a self-regulatory mechanism. You would see later on that our evaluators are coming from PCNC accredited organizations. The board, the members of the board came from, are elected from the PCNC accredited organizations. So it's really a self-regulatory mechanism, a peer system of accreditation. Okay. So our mission is to safeguard the integrity of the Philippine NGO sector and improve its reach, capability, and effectiveness of our members. Just a quick backtrack, no? In 1986, 87, after the EDSA revolution, no? When the new government was actually installed, a lot of donor agencies, foreign, bilateral or multilateral agencies, international donors, international foundations such as Consuelo, came into the Philippines. And there were actually a lot of resources, a lot of money, that were given to the Philippines. And at the time, the government cannot, with all its bureaucracy and with the newly installed constitution, and the government agencies were just trying to figure out what must be done, no, with the new administration. So they cannot really accommodate all of those help. So there were a lot of NGOs that were actually formed to absorb some of those grants, some of those funds and donations from international agencies. And as a result of that, of course, there were also a lot of abuses that were encountered. Many NGOs were actually formed just to siphon some of those funds, but they were not really performing their development work. And we have seen that some politicians, families, influential families also formed their own foundations or own NGOs for their own benefit, for their own benefit. And so there was really a need for a system that will ensure that those grants, those donations will actually go to qualified NGOs, and those resources will actually be used for their intended purposes. And initially, Code NGO, for its part, tried to come up with a code of ethics for NGOs to somehow set some parameters of how NGOs are supposed to behave, how NGOs are supposed to operate. But of course, that code of ethics is voluntary, and still there is a need for a more formal system or structure to ensure that there is order within the sector. And for that reason, that is the role that was actually played by PCNC. Okay. So for our core values, PCNC promotes integrity, transparency, accountability among NGOs, and of course the quality of service that we provide, through our programs and services. So that's why these core values, you would see, are embedded in our standards. This is embedded in the way we evaluate NGOs. So we are looking at how these core values are actually also applied by NGOs being certified or accredited by PCNC. Okay. So as mentioned earlier, PCNC really, the beauty and the distinct characteristic of PCNC is that it is a voluntary organization. The first of its kind in Asia, and actually a model in the world, according to the article published by the Asian Development Bank. Because we really rely on our peer volunteer evaluators in the conduct of PCNC evaluation. So these volunteer evaluators are development professionals. They are top management or board members of PCNC certified organizations. And we also entered into a partnership with the Philippine Institute of Certified Public Accountants and Philippine Association of Management Accountants, or PAMA, so that their members can also join PCNC as evaluators, particularly as our experts in accounting, finance, and administration areas, no, of evaluation. So really, we are very grateful for these volunteer evaluators who are up to now very, very committed, no, to serving PCNC, and they have so much faith in the work that they are doing and in the work that PCNC is doing. Okay. So PCNC is also governed by a board of trustees. We have 9 members, and we elect these board members from the PCNC certified organization. So every year we elect 3, and the board actually is a very active board. We meet every month to deliberate the applications for accreditation. After the evaluators have conducted their evaluation, those evaluation reports are actually submitted to the board for their deliberation, and the approval of accreditation is actually given by the board. So it's still, again, just to emphasize that it is really a self-regulatory mechanism, because all of these members of the board are from the NGO sector themselves. Okay, so you can look at PCNC and BIR accreditation and certification, so the ladderized system. So PCNC being a prerequisite for the BIR registration as a donor institution. So meaning you cannot go straight to BIR and apply for your donor institution status. You cannot do that. So only PCNC is allowed to endorse to BIR any application for accreditation or for registration as a donor institution. So meaning you have to apply first with PCNC. Okay, and then once you are accredited, once you pass the accreditation of PCNC, PCNC will endorse your application to BIR for the issuance of your certificate of registration, or COR, as a donor institution. But here we would like to emphasize that PCNC accreditation per se or itself has a value. So even if you don't need the BIR registration as a donor institution, because for instance, your organization is not relying on donations from companies who are most likely to avail of the full deductibility of donations benefit or the exemptions from the payment of donors tax. But even if you do not need the BIR registration as a donor institution, so we would like to believe, as Greg rightfully mentioned earlier, that the PCNC certification of accreditation is a seal of good housekeeping. So it's a seal of sound management practices. So a PCNC accredited organization can somehow assure the public, assure the donors, its partners, that it adheres to good management practices, its programs are legitimate, and the governance mechanism of the board meets certain standards or certain criteria of transparency, accountability, and good governance. So with that, in itself, the PCNC certificate of accreditation has a value to the organization. So we would like to encourage as many organizations as possible, and that's really one of the main strategic direction or thrust of PCNC since last year, is that we want PCNC accreditation to be more accessible to many NGOs, especially the smaller ones who are operating in the countryside. And we have been working, enhancing our systems, revising our standards to somehow help smaller NGOs comply with the accreditation requirements. Okay? So apply na, no? Get certified even if you don't need the BIR donor institution. But of course, if you pass PCNC accreditation, 99% you'll be able to get your BIR registration as a donor institution. Okay. Uh, okay. All right. Okay. So quickly, an overview of how we do the certification process. Now, how do we get organizations certified? Of course, the first step is for the organization to apply, submit your application for accreditation. You can actually go to the PCNC website, and then under the forms there, you can download all the guidelines, all the forms, the templates. So we actually put on template a lot of those documentary requirements, so it will be easier for the organizations to comply with those documentary requirements. So everything is there. So all you need to do is to download those forms and then fill them up, and then prepare all the necessary documents there, and then submit that to PCNC. And then once you submit it to PCNC, we will review your documents, and then once we have seen that your documents are in order, then we will organize a evaluation team, composed of 2 volunteer peer evaluators and 1 PCNC certification officer to conduct the actual evaluation. Okay. For now, since nasa pandemic pa tayo, so we are still doing the evaluation, the interviews online, but eventually we may consider doing some blended evaluation. We're still trying to figure out how we are going to do that, but we think that's still necessary, that our evaluators will be able to visit the organization and see how it actually operates. So for now, we are not doing that, but eventually we are thinking of coming up with a blended evaluation process or blended evaluation system, or hybrid. All right. But definitely we cannot go back to that full face-to-face or full on-site evaluation. So it will be a mix of virtual and on-site visit. Okay. So after the evaluation has been conducted, the evaluation reports are submitted to the PCNC board for deliberation, and the board really goes through each of the reports. They discuss, go through their financial systems, etc. And since the NGO sector is quite a small sector, so a lot of our board members know other members of the board of the applicant organizations, and so that will also figure in the deliberation process. Okay, so once the board finds that the evaluation is in order, okay, it may grant or approve the accreditation. In certain instances, but it's really a very few instances where the board may defer the accreditation. And if the accreditation is deferred, it actually only means that that additional information or some documentary requirements needs to be submitted to the board for their consideration, or additional information. The board may ask for additional information. And the applicant organization is actually given 6 months to comply with any deficiencies found in the evaluation or any additional document that may be required by the board. But within that 6 months, as soon as you were able to submit those additional information being asked, then we resubmit your application to the board for redeliberation, and then most likely uh, the application for accreditation will be approved. The board may also deny application, but since I was in the board, until now, I can only remember one instance when an application of a certain NGO was denied by the board. So it's very unlikely that the board will deny application after going through the evaluation process. Okay. So once the board approves your application, then we endorse that to the BIR. And then about 1 month or on the average 30 days, give or take, the BIR can act on your application for accreditation and will issue your certificate of registration as a donee institution. But remember, it's only after the BIR issued the certificate of registration as a donee institution that you can issue the certificate of donation to your donors. And that certificate of donation will be used by your donors to claim for tax deductibility. So once you are a donor institution, any donations to donor institutions, meaning those NGOs that have the certificate of registration as a donor institution, is qualified for full deductibility. So meaning, company A donates 1 million. That 1 million is can be deducted with the certificate of donation. Can be deducted from their taxable income. So mas bababa yung kanilang the tax that they need to pay. And the total amount of the donation is actually exempted from the payment of the donor's tax. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Okay, so the standard is actually provided for the basic framework is provided for by RR 13-98. You can download a copy of that Revenue Regulation 13-98. You can also access a copy of that from the PCNC website. Just go to the resources tab. You can download NGO related issuances from SEC, BIR, DSWD from the PCNC website. So our evaluation focuses on the organizational purpose. Of course, the legitimacy criterion is a prerequisite to these 6. So the legitimacy evaluation criteria is actually established as you submit your documentary requirements, particularly the SEC or SEC regulation, SEC registration. So we evaluate your organizational purpose. So this is something to do with the mission of the organization. Remember that the mission of the organization justifies its existence. So we are very particular, even the BIR is very particular in looking into the purposes of the organization as contained in your articles of incorporation and bylaws. Okay? So you just have to make sure that those purposes are actually falling under Section 34 of the tax code, meaning those are what is allowed to be eligible for donor institution status. Okay, so we also look at your governance and leadership. Okay, internal control mechanism, governance mechanism. Okay, we look at your programs or operations management, how your programs are actually planned or services are planned, how they are executed or implemented, how they are monitored. Okay, we look at your beneficiaries, we look at your partners. Okay, we look at the partnership agreements, etc. And monitoring, and of course, evaluation of your programs and services. Right. We also consider collaboration, meaning how you work with different organizations, no? Partner organizations or networks or coalitions, because we believe that the task of development is so enormous, um, that no single organization can actually do the work alone. And we want to emphasize that it's very critical, it's very important for NGOs, as also demonstrated by Consuelo, to work with partners. By doing that, you actually multiply your resources. You're actually able to tap on the capabilities or resources of other organizations, so that a collective impact can actually be achieved. Okay, so that is the area of collaboration. And of course, we look at your administration policies, procedures, which covers human resources. No, so it's important that the organization follows the basic, the minimum, labor standards, labor laws. Okay, we look at your procurement, depending on the scale of your operations. Um, and then we look at your risk management and other administrative or shared services. Okay, and of course, very important is financial management and sustainability. So this is an area, that has the biggest scope. About 32% of the indicators are about financial management and sustainability. Of course, here we look at the basic compliance with BIR, but more than that, um, we particularly examine the internal control mechanisms, risk management and internal control mechanism of the foundation. And of course, to a certain extent, some sustainability mechanism to make sure that the organization will be a going concern, at least in the next few years. Meaning, you're able that the organization has the resources or the capability to continue delivering its programs and services. Okay. So the benefit of PCNC accreditation. So in itself, as I mentioned earlier, you become eligible for BI registration as a donor institution. It is a prerequisite. Okay. It is a seal of good NGO housekeeping that gives donor organizations some confidence. So that if you are PCNC accredited, then somehow that gives you an advantage, to access local and international funding. Of course, yung mga corporate donors, they would prefer giving to PCNC accredited organizations or those organizations that were certified as a donor institution, because those companies can claim for tax deductibility. So if there are two organizations, one is PCNC accredited, the other one is not, and doing the same work, so most likely donors will prefer giving to PCNC accredited organizations, because they have the assurance that they are doing well and they can claim for tax deductibility of their donations. And of course, networking with fellow PCNC accredited NGOs and foundations. So again, if you are working, if you are a grant making institution or an NGO working with a fellow PCNC accredited organization, will also give you that confidence, that somehow you can lessen or forego your own partner due diligence process. So in lieu of that, in lieu of your own due diligence process, PCNC accreditation can be a good benchmark of sound management practice. Okay. So the benefits of the BIR, Certificate of Registration as Donor Institutions, I mentioned full deductibility of donations, 100%, and exemption from donor tax. Okay. Anyway, we'll not go through this. You can actually download these required provisions. So this is included in the list of required documents for accreditation. But we just want to remind the applicant organizations to really review, no, your articles of incorporation and bylaws to make sure that these provisions are present. In the old pro forma articles of incorporation, no, that can be downloaded from the website of the Securities and Exchange Commission. So pro forma for non-stock non-profit, uh, these are not included, no, because these are provisions specifically for organizations applying for donor institution status. Okay, so if you are an NGO and you do not intend to apply for donor institution status, then these provisions in your articles of incorporation are not required. But if you are anticipating that somehow in the future you would want to be certified by PCNC and consequently apply for donor institution status with the BIR, then these provisions must be included in your articles of incorporation and bylaws. Okay? So just remember that. If after submission, after reviewing your documents, particularly your articles of incorporation and bylaws, we found that there are deficiencies along these provisions, you will be asked to amend your articles of incorporation and bylaws before proceeding with the evaluation process. Okay? So no part should be there. No part of your net income will accrue to any board of trustees, members, etc. That the level of your administrative expenses uh, do not exceed 30% of your total expenses for the taxable year. Okay? And 30% of donations, okay, may be used for administrative purposes. Okay. But that 30% of donation only pertains to the disbursed portion of the donation. So the 30% must be corresponding to 30% of the disbursed portion of donation. Okay. So if you receive, let's say, 1 million donation for this year, and you disburse all 1 million, then 30% of 1 million may be used for administrative purposes. However, if you receive 1 million now, and that 1 million is to fund a 2-year project, so meaning, for example, you're only able to disburse 500,000 for year 1 and then another 500,000 for year 2. Then the 30% allowable for administrative expenses is taken from the 500,000 disbursed for year 1. Then for year 2, another 30% of 500,000 disbursed. Okay, so that's how you compute that. And then in the event of dissolution, so itong provision na to is very important, that the asset of the organization can be given to organizations of a similar purpose or upon the discretion of the court. The last bullet is also very, very important. We are very particular with this, that a member of the Board of Trustees shall not receive any form of compensation and or remuneration. No? So walang compensation ng members of the Board of Trustees. Okay? Anyway, you can read these prohibited transactions from RR 13-98. And then PCNC is also given the authority to withdraw the certificate of accreditation, or the BIR may also revocate your certificate of registration as a donor institution if the certified organization is found to have violated or is violating any provision of the tax code or revenue regulation 13-98. So po pwedeng ma-revoke ang inyong accreditation or registration sa donee institution. Okay? So I guess that's my last slide, and I want to give more time to some questions and answers, no, uh, later in the session. Okay. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Sir Felix, for your informative and reliable presentation. Kahit ako, maraming natutunan sa presentation ni Sir Felix. Isa na dyan ay being a PCNC accredited NGO provides numerous benefits such as a boost to its reputation, ensuring transparency and accountability, which are vital qualities in the NGO sector. Ikaw, Pao, anong takeaway mo from Sir Felix's presentation?
Well, ako naman, Tony, as a former fundraiser for a children's organization din, I would really toss that term around in PCNC. May PCNC kami, and you can, and especially since most of the donors I used to work with are corporate donors. So you really want to be able to explain to them the benefit, apart from helping the children that we serve or the families that we serve, that it also helps provide tax incentives so that they can also incur savings in their tax income. So yun yung takeaway ko from yung talk ni Sir Felix.
Yes, thank you, Pao. And now we move on to our tips and tricks about PCNC. For our participants this morning, we read through all the questions you have submitted in advance, and a lot of you asked for tips about getting hashtag certified. So for this segment, pumili kami ng 4 na tanong mula sa inyo at iniimbitahan ulit namin si Sir Felix to see if he can feed our curiosities and provide any tips and tricks in getting that PCNC certification. Sir Felix, welcome back.
Hi, Sir Felix.
Hi, hello.
Sir.
Yes.
Are you ready for the first question, Sir Felix?
Yes.
So here's our first question. So what advice or tip would you give for organizations currently preparing to be visited or evaluated by PCNC as part of their application?
Okay, number one, check the list of documents, no, that you can download from the PCNC website. Okay, and you just have to make sure that you have the complete documents, because if there are lacking documents, we really cannot proceed. No, so the evaluation process may be stalled. So that's really the most important thing. So everything is already provided for in the website on what needs to be done. You can actually call. Our certification associate is always ready to receive your call and help you go through the process. If you have questions, no, you can always ask us, email us, call the office. No, we are working in the office 5 days a week. So we are always ready to assist you, no, in your application process.
Okay, sir. So remember, guys, just like sinabi po ni Sir Felix, don't forget, check your documents. Make sure it's complete before you apply. And don't worry, now once you approach the PCNC offices, there will always be a certification associate to guide you along the way. And for further questions, don't forget to contact their organization through email.
Thank you, Pao, and thank you again, Sir Felix. Now on to our second question. Any tips for those who are undergoing renewal process and would want to apply for a 3 or 5 year accreditation?
All right. Okay. So here's the thing. We are actually in the process. We started the revision of our standards and guidelines now in October. We are testing the revised guidelines now and the revised standards now. No? The beauty of the revised standards, which we call now SAPAT, or the Self-Assessment and Peer Appraisal Tool, okay, The beauty of that is that it actually allows the organization, no, to self-assess. That's why there is a self-assessment portion there. And actually, from your own self-assessment, you can determine, no, your certification life. You can actually conduct your own assessment, and as a result of that, if you truthfully answer the self-assessment tool, the final rating will give you an indication of how long will your certification be, whether it's 1 year, 3 years, or 5 years. Okay, so we are testing that until mid-May, and then after that we will present that to the General Assembly on June 10, and then after that we will fully implement that. No? So in that case, for those applying for renewal, you can actually go again. It's downloadable. It's shared. No, not yet now. Now after the pilot parallel test, no, it will be shared with everyone, so everybody can have access to the tool, and applicant organizations can actually perform their own self-assessment, and you can actually, based on the criteria, no, the indicators presented there, you can actually use the tool for your own planning process, so that if you get, say for example, if you get a 3-year certification now, the tool will tell you how to get 5-year certification upon renewal. So just go through what are required, no, for you to be able to get the 5-year certification. And most of them are really some leading practices or compliance, no, with regulatory requirements. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Sir Felix. You mentioned the assessment tool, SAPAT. Maybe just request if you could repeat the meaning of the acronym SAPAT po for us.
It's self-assessment and peer appraisal tool.
Okay, so thank you, Sir
So it's
Felix.
the
So
same tool, no? It's the same tool that will be used by the evaluators during the evaluation. So you have the opportunity to use that tool to conduct your own self-assessment.
okay, so there you have it, guys.
Yeah.
If you want to get hashtag certified for a longer duration or period of time, the tip is the SAPAT tool. This is the tool that will conduct the assessment, and it will be downloadable and available soon to all our audiences. Thank you, everyone. And for our third question, are there any
Yes.
tips you could give for those who would want to expedite their PCNC application?
Yeah. Again, the key is completeness of your documentary requirements. Once all the documents are complete, we can actually process the certification. No, in our estimates, the certification can actually be done in the span of 3 months, considering also the BIR. No, so let's say 1 month, or up to 2 months within PCNC, up to the board deliberation, and then another 1 month for the BIR, certificate of registration as the owning institution. No, and of course it depends on your availability for the conduct of the evaluation or the the interviews and visit. No? So complete documents, and then availability of your organization, no, for the conduct of the evaluation.
Yeah, thank you, Sir Felix. So again, to recap, just going back to what was expected of us at the start of the application, always goes back to having the complete documents when you submit. And of course, like Sir Felix said, let's really take priority making ourselves available when PCNC needs to get in touch with us.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you again, Sir Felix. So finally, do you have any tips for first-time applicants?
Yeah.
Sir Felix, again, our last
Yeah.
question po. Do you have
Now,
any tips for first-time applicants po?
Okay, for first-time applicants, common difficulty is your articles of incorporation and bylaws. Review your articles of incorporation, sure that the required provisions, no, as enumerated in item number 6 in the list of requirements are all present. Okay, it may take some time for you to amend. Okay, but it's better that you do the amendment as soon as possible so that it will not get in the way of your application. So that's a common difficulty that we have encountered, especially for the first-time applicants.
Thank you.
Well, we had some discussions with SEC. I'm just not sure yet if the online pro forma articles of incorporation and bylaws already incorporated the required provisions. But we had an agreement with SEC that there will be a pro forma, particularly for NGOs, applying for donor institution status that already incorporates those required provisions. So for those who are registering their their organizations, with SEC for the first time, you could check in the pro forma, check the condition there that is a non-stock non-profit, applying for donor institution status, so that the pro forma template for articles of incorporation and bylaws that you will fill up and download already incorporates those provisions. But just the same, still check again whether those provisions are actually incorporated in your articles of incorporation and bylaws.
Okay, thank you
Because
so
those
much.
are required provisions, Those are required provisions, required by law.
Thank you, Sir Felix. Again, for our last tip, our members should always review their articles of incorporation and bylaws to avoid difficulty in their application process. Okay, and there you have it, everyone. Thank you so much, Sir Felix, for enlightening us with your answers. We encourage everyone to follow these tips and tricks, and you'll surely #get certified.
And don't worry everyone, kung meron para kami mga further questions for Sir Felix, he'll also be joining us during the open forum. So this is not the last we'll see of him for this Consuelo Learning session. So kaya mga participants natin ngayong umaga, kung may mga katanungan kayo, pwede rin natin i-type sa ating chat box at sasagutin natin yan during our question and answer. If walang katanungan, you can type din sa chat box sa inyong mga takeaways at with the learnings sa umaga na ito.
Okay, bago tayo dumako sa ating session 2, magkakaroon muna tayo ng short break. See you in a bit, guys.
Welcome back po sa ating lahat. So type 2 po tayo sa chat box kung nakabalik na tayo. Nandiyan na po ba kayo? Ayan, so I guess there are marami na ata nakabalik for our Consuelo Learning session. So again, we encourage everyone to type sa chat box ang inyong mga katanungan or takeaways at mamaya ay babasahin natin at sasagutin natin.
Yes, tama ka dyan, Pao. Ngayon, simulan na natin ang ating session 2 where we will hear the sharing from our Consuelo partners. Joining us here today is our first sharer, Sir Chrysler Go, the Executive Director of Concordia Children's Services. Sir Chrysler will be sharing to us their experience as an organization who have been PCNC accredited since 2015. Let's all welcome with heart emoji, Sir Chrysler Go.
Yes, good morning, Paulo, and good morning, Tony. Of course, to our Consuelo family, to Sir Greg, to our Consuelo partners, and to everyone. Isang magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat, no? It feels good to be part of your first learning session for 2022. And it also feels good to be back. It's quite a while since our partnership. Um, but I'm taking this an opportunity to share and to reflect. And I'm really hoping that I can meet the objectives explained by our hosts, Tony and Paulo, and also to have a reflective journey as to fully understand PCNC accreditation. Besides, this is an interest of our founder, according to Sir Greg. So Tony is right. I am the executive director of Concordia Children's Services, and I have been working for 6 years already. And so far, this is the best social work setting for me, which is in child welfare. Concordia Children's Services is a child caring agency, and some people would call us as an adoption agency. We have been sharing and fulfilling dreams of our children. Can you imagine? We've been operating for 38 years already. We have placed 400 children to their adoptive families. So they are now living in the different parts of the world. We have actually provided education to 10,000s of underprivileged children and youth in Santa Mesa, Manila. But presently, Concordia is still supporting 25 children who are abandoned, surrendered, and neglected, and at the same time, providing educational support to over 100 underprivileged children. Again, Concordia's mission is to provide nourishment, education, and spiritual hope to all our children. So, as I have been reading the website of the PCNC, Concordia Children's Services is classified also as one of us of the Social Welfare and Development Agency. The DSWD even actually classified Concordia Children's Services and all of us under a Social Welfare and Development Agency. But we are better called as ASWADA, right? And for your information, we have a total of 1,279 active SWADAs in the country. And only 11% or 119 SWADAs are PCNC accredited. Majority still of our SWADAs are not PCNC accredited. So do you think that majority of our SWADAs are losing the opportunities and benefits from our PCNC accreditation? Just like what Sir Felix has explained to us about the benefits of being a PCNC accredited. How will this change our organizations? With my sharing, I hope that I can answer these questions, and I can also contribute to answer the questions raised to Sir Felix. I can still recall way back 2013 when we shifted our goal to having a strong brand that will bring integrity and credibility to our organization. And that is to be accredited both by the DSWD and especially by the PCNC. And for Concordia, before we applied in the year 2015, it was 2 years of preparation and 2 years of improving our management until we decided to apply in the year 2015. Fortunately, we received the 3-year PNC certificate after the evaluation. And Sir Felix is right that after the PCNC endorsement, you will receive the registration as donor institution. And it took 5 months for us to receive that. So the 3-year certificate given by the PCNC to Concordia gave us enough time to meet and even go beyond the organizational standards and criteria set by Sir Felix in his presentation. So even my friends and colleagues would ask me of the benefits of PCNC accreditation. So let me start by discussing the return of investment. Sir Greg actually raised about leverage of resources or raising resources through PCNC accreditation. So let us see if there are high returns from our investment to PCNC accreditation. Okay, again, to reiterate, one of the benefits of PCNC accreditation is our eligibility of BIR registration as a donor institution. Sir Felix explained it clearly about the benefits of being a donor institution, but for Concordia, again, it's good to talk about the return of investment. From the years 2015 to 2018, that's the first 3-year PCNC certificate that we received. We attracted more donors and increased by 5%. Most are corporations. We received over 2 million with 50,000 costs. Well, investment return, I would say, is still 44%, and that is indicated as a high and positive return of investment in our first 3-year PCNC accreditation. With the good returns, we maintained our PCNC accreditation and renew our accreditation in 2019. It's God's blessing that we were given the 5-year PCNC certificate effective from 2019 to 2023. Again, we attracted more donors and increased by 7%. That is 2% higher than our last 3-year PCNC accreditation. We received over 1 million pesos with only 30,000 costs. Investment return is 43% and again indicated a high and positive return of investment. So overall, we received a total of 3.5 million pesos covering for 7 years. And that is indicated that we have a very good efficiency and profitability from our investment returns or 44%. So my question is it worth investing in PCNC accreditation in terms of the returns? Well, in our experience at Concordia, it is a big yes. But according to Sir Felix, we have a lot of benefits as a donor institution, but it's not limited to a monetary return. Sir Felix even stressed about the access to funding. That is very true. You know what, Sir Felix? Many corporations prefer to donate to Concordia because of our PCNC accreditation. And that is actually attracting donors. And even since 2015 up to the present, we have attracted donors and we have increased the number of our donors to 12%. So again, with PCNC accreditation, I think I am proud also to say that we have been recognized by the many donors, supporters, and our partners. And being a PCNC accredited is one of our good practices. And this is became one of the criteria for Concordia to receive the best NGO in the Philippines for 2 consecutive years, for 2018 and 2019. So again, we cannot achieve all of these opportunities and benefits without our good practices. And Sir Felix also mentioned about the learning about the checklist, learning about the PCNC guidelines, procedures, and updates. This is my suggestion to all of our partners that they have to learn all about the PCNC. You have to really read, review, and study PCNC as an accrediting body, its purpose, and its accreditation guidelines and process. Second good practice is let's adopt a collaborative approach. Please involve everyone in the PCNC accreditation process. At Concordia, we involve our social workers, we involve our finance staff, and we involve our admin staff in the accreditation process, especially on the organizational self-assessment and on the evaluation visit. It is also important to take note that it's important for you to select a point person. Well, for Concordia, our point person is our accountant or our financial consultant who is actually managing the accreditation process, even renewal, because of her extensive knowledge and evaluation skills. No, we are happy that our accountant is also a PCNC evaluator, and I think that's a good practice for Concordia. She helped us to guide in the process, even financial management and continued growth. When I talked to her a weeks ago, she told that being a PCNC evaluator has been helping her to really gather all the good practices that Concordia is now adapting. So our accountant, our PCNC evaluator is really is an asset to Concordia in terms of achieving a PCNC accreditation. Sir Felix even actually mentioned about the conduct of an organizational self-assessment. You are right that these organizational self-assessment can be used as a plan um, that every partner should actually conduct as an organizational self-assessment. It is a first step for Concordia to assess our readiness for PCNC. With the self-assessment, uh, you have to review and audit all the documentary requirements, and eventually you can identify the gaps and deficiencies and suggest ways to address it. Ito yung sinasabi ni Sir Felix that we can actually use this self-assessment for planning. Be prepared for documentation. Any accreditation requires a lot of documentation. And we have to went through the checklist of documents required for PCNC accreditation, and at the same time, our application for BIR registration as a donor institution. So we kept all of our documentation in one place to save time and easy access. And Sir Felix is right that we have also to check all the required documents. And lastly, I would say that we should all maintain our DSWD license and accreditation, because this is one of the requirements for PCNC accreditation. And I would say that maintaining the DSWD juridical personality, the DSWD license, because there are common organizational standards and indicators for both the DSWD and the PCNC. So we have achieved more benefits from our PCNC accreditation. We have changed our organization from our commitment to achieve the highest levels of nonprofit excellence, and it started to create a strong brand that's bringing integrity and credibility to Concordia. So overall, PCNC accreditation for us is an enlightening experience to us that help improve our agency's effectiveness, transparency, and accountability. So knowing the importance and benefits of PCNC accreditation, do you think it's right for your organization? Think about it and make the right decision. Thank you, and I rest my case. Again, good morning and more power.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chrysler. Let's now proceed with our second sharer, the Managing Director of Safe Haven Children's Home, Ms. Eliza Ebrada. Safe Haven is one of Consuelo's partners who are currently applying for PCNC accreditation. Let's all welcome Ms. Ebrada with a tada emoji.
Good day everyone. Magandang araw po sa ating speaker, Sir Felix, and of course to Sir Chrysler and to the Consuelo Foundation staff, and to all who are joining us this morning's online activity. Special shout out to my Safe Haven team who are also here with me this morning. So I'm Eliza Ebrada, and I'm currently serving as the Managing Director of Safe Haven Community Center and Children's Home. We are located in Quezon City, and since 2015, Safe Haven serves children who are abused, neglected, and abandoned. We believe that children should be seen, heard, and loved. And we are grateful to be chosen also as Quezon City Manuel Quezon Gawad Paragal Awardee in 2021. We also do outreaches and projects in the community, especially in the Payatas area. Allow me to briefly share with you our present journey in applying for certification to PCNC. So first, how did we find out about PCNC certification? It's through our Safe Haven Board of Trustees. They keep on encouraging us in the application because of the prospect donors who usually ask if we are PCNC certified. And also through the Consuelo Foundation, it's part of our resource mobilization goals and activities for the year 2022. Ganun din po sa mga partner organizations who are certified already and for some who are applying as well. So why are we applying for PCNC certification? Although we're a very young and small organization, we believe that we have to apply for PCNC certification because it is recognized as a seal of legitimacy and good NGO housekeeping. And when we are certified by PCNC, it means that we have met the standards of good governance, financial stewardship, and operational transparency and accountability. As an organization, we do value transparency and accountability, and of course, sound management practices. It is important for institutional sustainability. It will also, kagaya ng sabi po kayo ng mga speakers natin, it will also encourage donors to commit and join us in our advocacies and to share in the work that we are doing. It also provides opportunities to local and international funding and also networking opportunities with other PCNC accredited NGOs and foundations. So during this pandemic, we have experienced, I'm sure you have experienced many challenges in fundraising and in providing for the pressing needs in our daily operations. And as part of our resource mobilization and sustainability plan, we aim to be certified by PCNC because this will help us in connecting with local donors and meaningful partnerships, which will assist us in furthering the work or the ministry we are doing. So for a short glimpse, our journey in applying to PCNC started way back po in 2019 and early 2020 before the pandemic. So upon initial submission of our documents, Safe Haven po was notified to update some of the documents we've submitted. However, due to the quarantine restrictions and lockdown, we have to defer the application for a while. So at this point po, we are actively pursuing again the application and we are hopefully aiming to be certified this year. So for a new applicant, what are the tasks and challenges in our application? I would like to share some of these things that we're experiencing at the moment. So the last time that we submitted, there was a different template or format for the documents, and there were some changes in 2021. So, but these are more simplified forms and new templates, but we have to start again and follow the new format. So there was a transition also in the workforce in our organization, and the turnover of documents took a bit longer for us. And also, it happened that we have to process and wait for the renewal of our DSWD registration po and license to operate to continue with our application. So for new applicants po, we have experienced that we really have to consolidate the document requirements from other agencies. Kagaya po ng mentioned ko like SEC, BIR, DSWD. A specific example are certified true copies. It takes time talaga to ask for these copies. So certified true copies of certificates, licenses, SEC documents, articles of incorporations, bylaws, and including amendments. So you really have to prepare these things para it will not get in way to our application process. So preparing the needed documents and waiting time took long, especially during the pandemic because of the skeleton workforce in government offices in the past month. So this is one of the challenges that we've experienced as a new applicant. And then also ensuring compliance with all the finance record requirements. So we have to make sure that we are compliant dun sa template that they would like us to submit, and also for the application for tax exemption from the BIR RDO. So these are very new to us. We are learning, but in the process, marami po kami natututuhan as we go on with the application. So another challenge for us is the actual preparation for the evaluation or visit of the certifiers. So necessary documents and attachments po should be complete prior to their visit or for their online evaluation, such as policies of the organizations, finance reports. And at this point po, we are completing and organizing the documents with the help of our mistress, our accountant. So it will be good to put it in a folder as instructed, and because it will be shared later on or uploaded prior to the certifier's online assessment or visit to our organization. So some practical reminders for new applicants like us. Tama ba yung sabi nyo na kanina? Visit the website of PCNC. It's very accessible, helpful, complete application information, especially for new applicants like us. Lahat po ng documentary requirements are listed and explained very well there. PCNC Forms 101 to 111. So you have to really know it by heart as you prepare. And then the checklist and important guidelines for the applicant organization are also there. And they also provide us steps to be undertaken and the documents that are required for our evaluation. One important thing to note also is that we have to start with the organizational self-assessment with our team, with our board of trustees and the management team. The self-assessment checklist po ay nandun din in the website. You can download it and it will really guide us in assessing our organization's readiness for the application and certification process. So consolidate all these little requirements as a team, and it's very easy for us if we divide the task among the team and delegate specific tasks to focus on para it will be easy to collaborate and consolidate later on before the submission. And one practical tip also is to prepare in 4 copies labeled on the side accordingly, and in their new requirement and instruction, you have to organize it in a green expandable folder. And it's true also that for assistance, questions, or concern, we also provide a contact person who can assist us in everything that we would like to ask if we are stuck on something in the requirements that we would have to submit. So thank you for this opportunity to share our present experience as an organization in applying for PCNC certification. Thank you for the enlightening talk of Sir Felix on the hows and whys of PCNC certification. Very timely for us, relevant as we go on with the application, and the encouraging example from Sir Christopher's organization. We also pray and hope that we at Safe Haven and all the new applicants, we will be able to comply with all the requirements, pass the assessment process, and Lord willing, be certified. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you. And yes, let's get PCNC certified. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Eliza, for that encouraging sharing. Bigyan naman natin ng virtual clap at heart emoji ang ating dalawang sharer this morning.
Okay, so dako na tayo sa ating open forum. So we encourage everyone to type in all your questions sa ating chat box para ma-address ng mga speakers natin. So tatawagan po natin ulit si Sir Felix, Sir Chrysler, and Miss Eliza.
Good morning again, speakers. Okay, for our question number one, how much will it cost for the organization to apply for accreditation? Anyone can answer po.
It actually depends, no? The accreditation fee is socialized. So it ranges from between 4,000 up to 90,000 if you're based on your asset size. No? Tama ba yung aking figure? Yeah. So it's actually based on your asset size.
For the initial payment po, is the application is 1,000 pesos.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tony. Well, at Concordia, we did like an estimate, like what I have presented about return on investment. In our first 3 years, Sir Felix, from 2015 to 2018, I think we have spent like over 50,000, and that include the preparation of our documents.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
again, it's really worth to invest. The over 50,000 is just a small money to the investment that you will receive later on.
Thank you everyone
Thank you,
for your
everyone.
answer on this. So ako naman may second question po ako. This is directed at for Sir Felix. So, is there a specific format to be followed specifically for the submission of finance records?
The finance, which one?
Finance records.
Finance what?
For the submission of the finance records po, sir.
Ah, wala naman. The audited financial statement, of course, no? So it has its own, the organization has its own audited financial statements format. And then, of course, the books of accounts, so sample books of accounts now registered with the BIR. It actually depends on the accounting system that is being used by the organization. So if the organization is using a manual or loose leaf or a computerized accounting system, no, and then the corresponding books of accounts. And everything else is dependent on the organization's established financial and accounting policies and procedures. Okay, so what is important is that your practice is actually coherent with your policies and procedures on accounting and finance.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Sir Felix. So another question po that you may answer, Sir Felix, is how will a PCNC accreditation help with the resource mobilization?
I think Chrysler talked about that very extensively, that based on the experience of Concordia, PCNC accreditation is a key to mobilizing resources, attracting donors, increasing partnerships. Based on their experience, their ability to generate resources increased by 42% after PCNC accreditation.
Sir Chris, maybe you want to add?
Yes, like what I am saying, it's really worth to invest. Based on our estimates, uh, there is a high return on investment, over 40%. And Sir Felix, for the 7 years of us being a
Mhm.
PCNC accredited, we have actually received 3.5 million pesos. And
Yeah.
3.5 is more than the nearly 100,000 expenses of Concordia. That includes
Mhm.
the processing fees, the annual fees, and etc. So again, just being a PCNC accredited, I strongly agree with Sir Felix and of course to all of us that it is really attracting donors. Corporations will first call to Concordia and first ask, do you have a PCNC accreditation? Yes, we have. And then they will donate. And these are coming from corporations.
Yeah. Just to add, no, I like the point of Chrysler, no, that for Concordia, PCNC accreditation meant improved brand reputation. Improved brand reputation. For a lot of NGOs who are not quite very familiar with some corporate language, no, uh, we have to remember that companies are brand conscious. Companies are brand conscious, and therefore they want to be associated with a brand no, that has a good reputation. So meaning, applying that no, to the practical terms, if you have two organizations, one is PCNC certified and one is not. PCNC certified has a good reputation, being a PCNC certified, and the other doesn't have the PCNC certification, and therefore somehow we are not saying that they are not doing well, but somehow it lacks that seal. No, so if I am a company and I'd like to donate, and I'm going to choose between a PCNC certified organization and a non-certified organization, so definitely being brand conscious as I am, I'd like to be associated with a PCNC certified organization. Now, I have an assurance that I can actually be happy with such an association, and it will not in any way affect my reputation, my brand as well. No? So yeah, from a businessman's point of view, Now you can also look at it that way. Right. Yeah.
And actually, Tony, also to proceed on the benefit, um, I believe that our PCNC accreditation has been really helpful to Concordia to achieve our best NGO for consecutive years from 2018 to 2019 because they know PCNC with the seal of good housekeeping. So, being a PCNC accredited, again, we are achieving a lot of benefits.
Okay, so this thank you everyone for that for your answers. So this question naman is directed for everyone. So is there a specific requirement or a specific requirement for staffing in terms of numbers, roles, and responsibilities to get accredited?
There's none. There's none, no? It actually depends on the nature and scale of operations of the NGO. So what we are assessing is that is your staffing pattern appropriate with your scale and nature of operations. So if you have only one staff who is overseeing everything and you rely to a large extent on volunteers, then so be it, provided that you're able to perform your mission, you're able to deliver your services in an effective and efficient manner. So it depends on the organization to determine the appropriateness of the staffing pattern.
Thank you, Sir Felix. Do you have anything to add from Miss Eliza or Sir Chrysler? Or is that all good?
Um, what,
Yes.
um, Sorry if I speak
Go ahead,
fast.
Paul. Go ahead,
Presented
Sir.
my When I presented my sharing, but I have stressed there that I also advise all of us to maintain our juridical personality, the DSWD license. I am a DSWD accreditor, and I'm active in ABSNet, Area-Based Standards Network, and I see similarities in some of the
Yeah.
organizational criteria and indicators. And the DSWD is very strict in terms of the staff ratio. Um, so if you are a licensed DSWD, so they're also looking into it, and they are stricter in terms of the staff ratio. So before you apply for PCNC accreditation, you already have like this. You have met, if not all, at least many of the organizational um, standards and criteria of the PCNC accreditation. But there are also other benefits of being a DSWD accredited.
Great. Thank you, Sir Christy.
Thank you, Sir Chris and Sir Felix. Another question
Yeah.
directed for Sir Felix is, can organizations based overseas but have offices in the Philippines apply for a PCNC accreditation?
They have to register as a non-stock, non-profit corporation locally. Yeah. So which has been done by several international NGOs, no? So they incorporated a local office, Philippine office, because the jurisdiction of PCNC and BIR only applies to Philippine corporations.
All right. Thank you, Sir Felix.
Okay, and then the next question is this is directed for everyone. Is there a limit to the amount of donations we can receive if we are not PCNC accredited?
There's no limit, but you have to pay the corresponding the donor. No, the donor will have to pay the donor's tax, and well, you have to remember that there are two different types of exemption. No, so the first is the exemption from payment of income tax. Okay, so that's a separate and distinct from the donor institution status registration by the BIR. Okay, so the first is the tax exemption certificate, which the organization will have to apply by themselves with the regional office, with the RDO, no? Exempts the organization, meaning the NGO, from payment of income tax from those sources identified in the certificate itself. So meaning if you are an NGO and you do not have the certificate of tax exemption, all of your income, donations, grants, other income, investments, etc., are subject to payment of income tax, corporate income tax. Okay? Now, if you have the certificate of tax exemption, the certificate enumerates the items that are exempted from income tax. So most likely, for NGOs, donations, grants, contributions, membership dues may be exempted from payment of income tax. So meaning, if you receive a donation and you have the certificate of tax exemption, you are exempted from payment of income tax. Okay? From donation. Now, iba naman yung certificate of registration sa donee institution. The exemption there accrue to the donors. Okay, to the donors, not to the NGO. Okay? So yun.
Yeah, Sir Felix, I agree with Sir Felix. And you know what? We interviewed few of our corporations who are donating to Concordia, and they told that they want to maximize the donation that they will give to any nonprofit like Concordia. And of course, they have to save from paying all of those taxes. So again, if I am in the corporation, I think I would prefer a PCNC accredited nonprofit to maximize all donations.
Yeah. It's true.
All right. Thank you, Sir Felix and Sir Chris. Now, to move on to our next question directed to everyone. What will happen if the PCNC certification of a certain organization gets revoked? Will it be harder to reapply?
Uh, we haven't really revoked any accreditation, no? Not yet. Some of them lapsed and, the organization did not renew their accreditation anymore, but we haven't had that experience in the past, now going through a revocation process. But if that happens, then from the time of your the effectivity of the revocation, then you will not be eligible to issue certificate of donation, no? And therefore, the benefit of a donor institution status will also end. Therefore, any donation, no, that you will be receiving henceforth upon the effectivity of the revocation will be subject to donor's tax and cannot be used to claim for tax deductibility benefits. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And for the next question, for everyone, do you have any advice for NGOs who have been waiting for years to get their certificate of tax exemption from the BIR? Yes, sir, parang,
Uh, well, the BIR is not really very strict, no? For as long as upon application, you just give us a status, no, an update on the status of your application for tax exemption, and that can be accepted already. So even if you don't have yet the ruling, the certificate of tax exemption, all you have to do is to send us or to include in the documents a letter explaining the status, and that can be accepted. No? But of course, regional office kasi ang nagpo-process niyan. It's not with the central, no? And the BIR regional offices have their own different processes perhaps. So you just have to keep on following that up with the BIR regional office.
Yeah. For Concordia, it took Sir Felix. It took 7 years to get the printed copy.
Wow.
That's why when we, you know what, Paulo and Paulo, when we received the printed copy, alam mo yung overjoy yung feeling. You know what an overjoy feeling? Parang finally, after 7 years. Pero yun nga, si Sir Felix told us na actually they are accepting naman yung received copy of our application for tax exemption, right, Sir Felix? So,
Yeah, yeah,
kumbaga, we don't have the printed copy, but you can parang you can already enjoy the benefit of being a tax exempted institution. But again, for us, it took 7 years. Kasi before, I think now meron ng expiration Sir Felix.
yeah,
Before, when we applied 2013 pa ata I'm not sure, basta matagal na. 7 years. It was 7 years.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sir Chris and Sir Felix. Now for our next question. For Sir Chris and Miss Eliza, can you share a specific situation wherein a PCNC accreditation or your current PCNC application proved helpful or beneficial?
Hi, Miss Tony. Yeah, hello.
Hi, Miss
So,
Eliza. Sige po.
I'd say Haven. I think there was one time when we are asked by a prospective donor if we are PCNC certified. So that's the time that we really realized it's very important because we believe that if we are PCNC certified, we could encourage more donors to compete in our work and join us in our advocacy. So that's why it's really one of our motivation at this time to be PCNC certified.
Well, for specific situation, well, there is a company who raised funds for Concordia, and they have raised over 1 million pesos, and they were actually looking for a nonprofit. It was only Concordia who was PCNC accredited, and it's a big money. It's over 1 million. We can actually survive for 1.5 months for over 1 million pesos here at Concordia. So it's really worth it being a PCNC accredited because we asked these corporations if where did they find Concordia or why they are choosing Concordia as a beneficiary, and they just keep on saying that because you're a PCNC accredited. It's one of the reasons. And there are a lot of specific situations, but again, overall with Concordia, we have a high returns of investment, and again, it's very worth it to invest to PCNC accreditation.
Thank you, Miss Eliza and Sir Chrysler. And now we go back to Sir Felix for another question. So, is a PCNC accreditation recognized by the United States IRS? Sir, you're on mute po, Sir Felix.
No, it's not. For you to be enjoying the tax benefit, you need to be registered with the US 501c3. No. So PCNC accreditation, since that is only uh, with the Philippines, so it's only recognized by BIR. No. But one thing about it is that we had some discussions in the past with, say, for example, yung mga fundraising platforms no, in the US. Give to Asia, for instance, recognize already PCNC accreditation no, in lieu of their own due diligence. So if you are PCNC certified, you won't need to go through their due diligence process anymore. So it will be easier for you to access funding through Give to Asia. In the same manner, we had some discussions with TechSoup, no, that once you're also PCNC certified, uh, you don't need to go through their own due diligence process. But that's still underway. No? That's a discussion that we are having with TechSoup. So in that sense, yung what I mentioned earlier, so access to funding can be opened up that opportunity by being PCNC certified. So you can have access to this international fundraising platforms.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Another thing. I'd like to mention that if you are an organization eyeing for a USAID funding, USAID, no, uh, prior to any award by USAID to a Philippine NGO, you need to go through the NUPAS assessment, no, the non-US uh, organization assessment. So ito yung ginagawa ng USAID to evaluate the risk level of any Philippine NGO before they give you any award. Okay, so the good thing is that in the revised standards of PCNC, we already aligned it with NUPAS, so that if you are a PCNC accredited organization, 90% or 99%, you will be able to pass also NUPAS. Okay, kasi we cross-reference the standards of NUPAS versus PCNC, and we merge it. So it will be easier for any organization to pass NUPAS and therefore to pass to access USAID funding support, either as a prime or a sub-grantee. Pareho lang.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Sir Felix. Now, for our last question for our speakers, are there any efforts to synchronize all the requirements of accreditation of DSWD and PCNC so the NGO will only apply for one accreditation?
That's a good question. We are actually last year or even in the previous years, we had several discussions already initiated by SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. So we were there, PCNC, DSWD, SEC, the Anti-Money Laundering Commission, or Council, and BIR, and we are trying to discuss on how to streamline the documentary requirements. So far, there are certain items that have already been improved. But for DSWD kasi it's also covered by their own regulation. No? There's also a law covering the requirements for DSWD accreditation. No? Registration, license to operate, and then accreditation if you are a social welfare and development agency engaged in the direct service delivery. Okay. But kung auxiliary social welfare and development agency ka lang naman, meaning you are a resource agency or you are just a funding institution, engaged in funding social welfare and development programs, then you need to get the accreditation. So hanggang license to operate na lang. Okay. So yeah, I hope in the coming months we'll still resume that discussions and come up with some resolutions on those voluminous documentary requirements. But for now, on the side of PCNC, we are actually trying our best to minimize. And so that as for those who are renewing, might have noticed that the revised guidelines already eliminated some documents that are no longer required. No? So may mga tinanggal na kami dun sa listahan. And we provided templates to help organizations easier, to help them come up with the documentations, para mas madali sa kanila. All right. And once we implement the revised standards, so hindi na 4 copies ang isa-submit, so 3 copies na lang. At least makasave tayo ng isang set, ng mga dokumento. So we are doing that, and we are also developing the online accreditation management system. Hopefully we'll be able to implement that late this year. So that will be an online portal for your applications, submission of documents, and the conduct of evaluation, so that it will be easier to conduct online evaluation. So we are on those processes now.
Thank you, Sir Felix. Just a follow-up question to that question, and our audience is just curious if having a PCNC accreditation eliminates the need for a DSWD solicitation permit.
No, if you are going to conduct fundraising, public fundraising, so you still need to get the permit from DSWD. Again, there is a law there. And there is also an SEC regulation for crowdfunding. No? So if you're going to do crowdfunding, no, you need to check that SEC regulation on crowdfunding.
Okay.
I would also like to advise the NGOs, no, that you also need to check the SEC memorandum circular, the 2019 NPO guidelines. Okay, 2019 NPO, non-stock non-profit organization, no, NPO guidelines. This has something to do with anti-money laundering and terrorism financing. Okay, because based on the studies, NGOs in the Philippines are vulnerable, no? Vulnerable. So merong vulnerability when it comes to money laundering or terrorism financing. Meaning, we become recipient of funds, di ba? Kasi naghahanap tayo ng funding, naghahanap tayo ng international donors. So sometimes, because of the need, it's parang there are organizations that are, without them knowing it, no, allowing their organizations to be conduits of those funds, no, or dirty monies, no. So it's important that you know your donors. You also conduct due diligence on your donors. So you have to know where your monies are coming from to make sure that you are not being used by other organizations, no, particularly international organizations that are into money laundering and terrorism financing. Just to be safe, okay, we also need to protect our own reputation as well, di ba?
Right.
Yeah. So wag lang basta tanggap ng tanggap. So kailangan din nating busisiin, no? To make sure na yung donors natin are also reputable donors. Okay? They say beggars cannot be choosy, but I say we also need to be choosy. No? Because we also need to protect the reputation of our organization. So definitely Concordia would not want to be associated with an international organization that is into some scrupulous activities, di ba? So we also need to protect our reputation as an NGO.
Thank you, sir. Definitely agree with that. We also have to be careful when we raise funds. So, I
Yeah.
guess wala na rin yes nga, sir. Tama. And I guess on this, wala na tayong other questions and takeaways. So thank you po so much lahat ng active participants po natin. Kitang-kita talaga yung eagerness to learn from Sir Felix, Sir Chrysler, and Miss Elisa. So thank you po sa lahat. Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you
Great.
din sa ating mga speakers this morning, Sir Felix, Sir Chrysler, and Miss Eliza.
We are now at the last part of our program. So on behalf of Consuelo Foundation, thank you po ulit sa inyong time na umattend sa ating Consuelo Learning Series entitled #GetCertified, the Hows and Whys of PCNC Accreditation. Sana ay marami po kayong nabaon na information na makakatulong sa inyong organization.
And now for our most awaited segment, we will be announcing our winners. Okay, for our winners, we have Maria Luis Consulta from Food for the Hungry and Mary Ann Nerval from First Love International Ministries. Congratulations to our winners! And bigyan naman natin sila ng tada or heart rap for their job well done. Para sa ating mga winners, one of our team members will get in touch with you on how to claim your prize.
Congrats!
Okay, so we would also like to give special thanks to Welcome Home Foundation for their continued support in every Consuelo Learning Series and their assistance in providing us sign language interpreters. So their contact details are available in our screen right now.
There you go. And last but not least, we will be asking you to answer our evaluation form, which will be sent via email. So remember, no evaluations, no certificates. So let's make sure to answer those evals.
Okay, and now to end our session for this morning, may we ask everyone to open their cameras for our group picture. Marami-rami po tayo ngayong umaga, kaya keep on smiling lang po. Okay, everyone
So let's get
smile.
ready. Show your pearly whites.
Pearly whites.
Pearly whites.
Everyone smile.
Okay. So we're still
Okay.
waiting for everyone to open their cameras. So just a reminder again, don't forget to answer your evaluations, especially for those who really need those certificates.
Yes.
And
No
we're going to be taking
evals, no
a picture.
certificates.
We'll be taking the picture panel by panel. So we'll let you know if it's the first panel, second panel, third panel. So we'll be smiling a lot during
Yes.
this program or part of the program. Yeah.
Practicein natin ang ating pose. Smile pose. Alright.
Okay.
Okay.
First panel, let's get ready. So I'll be counting 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay. Now for the second panel, get ready. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, third panel. Get ready. 1, 2, 3. Smile, guys. Fourth panel. Okay, one more panel, guys. Kaya natin to. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Okay, last
Okay,
panel.
last panel. Keep smiling, guys. 3, 2, 1.
2, 3. Smile. Okay. Thank you, everyone. So dito na po nagtatapos ang ating session for this morning. So let us remember the importance of hashtag Get Certified by PCNC. Again, I am Pao.
And I am Tony. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the day. God bless po sa inyong lahat.
Bye-bye.
Bye!
Thank you.